I didn't meet my father until I was 13. And I have my stepdad, and he's my dad. But my father I'd never met until later. And we only had like a very short relationship, like a couple of years that we were in touch, and then that kind of broke apart. And I did had that same thing that you're talking about, where you are just looking at it from your point of view and you're judging the person and what they did and how they didn't love you, and like, why the fuck wasn't he there? Like, we lived in the same town. Like, we lived like 20 minutes from each other, and I didn't meet him until I was 13, randomly on the street walking. And I didn't have empathy or acceptance for him until I was put away from my son. So like, after I got divorced, about a year later, my ex-wife moved away with my kids. And that destroyed me. That's the worst experience that I've had. And through that, I understood what my father went through. Even though he wasn't as good as a man or a father as I was, what was going through his heart, you know?
Do you not think the universe, the world showed you this so that you could understand that in your life?
I don't. I don't think it works that way. I think we make those connections to make sense of life. I used to believe in God. I grew up religious in the Christian church.
Yeah.
And that changed in my life when I was like, after I came to America, a few years after, it was actually studying. I have a minor in theology, like studying the Bible and understanding history and like going deep in all the religions and like all the creeds and what all the religions believe and all that. That's what kind of put everything in perspective to me, to see it as a more practical.
What was your biggest learning when you went through that you kind of gauged from looking at all the religions?
Is shared stories that aim to explain something bigger than us. So I do believe there's something bigger than us, but I believe that it's so big that it cannot be put into a book that this is the 100% truth of like, this is it, you know? Once you see all of it, because then you understand cultures and you see how Asians had their own version of higher power. The Mayans and the Aztecs had their own version of higher power. In Egypt, they had their own thing. Americans, we have a tradition that comes from. Once you see, I have an issue where I seek truth, and once I see truth, I cannot unsee it. And that happened with me with religion.
I think there's a lot of esoteric knowledge that is hidden from the masses. And there's a lot of pieces within the religious landscape and the spiritual landscape that I've not even put together in my head yet. There is definitely something bigger than us. I don't know how to quite articulate it in the best way. And I don't think that we're meant to know how to articulate it. I think it's that big, like you say, that there's something way bigger going on that we don't know how to do it. But I kind of believe in the 8 natural laws. You can Google them; they'll tell you the 8 natural laws. You know, similar to what it says in a Bible or a Torah or a Quran or anything like that. How you treat people, how energy works. I believe more with more things on an energetic level.
Yeah. I was opposed to all of that for the longest time. Now because I accept that everything is beyond what I can comprehend, then everything has more validity. It's just like a different explanation.
Yeah.
It's like a different movie that tells that story with the 8 laws, and then someone else might have a different.
One thing that I've learned on this podcast is that it's beautiful to have a conversation where you can disagree and you can have an adult conversation about it. That's the first thing. The second thing is I've got to work on getting more articulate knowledge and more and better wording to describe what I'm trying to get into people's minds. So it's so simple that people can just really get it. Because if I lose people by saying the word manifest, because people think the word's woo-woo, I've got to find a better word to articulate my ideas, because how it's received is important to me, so that you implement it in your life.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you have to have a repertoire of knowledge of even words, of language, to be able to fully purpose your idea in the physical, so that people can pick it up what you're running with.
Yeah, it's a skill, and it's also something that sometimes I forget to do, and I'm learning. But, you know, I have watched hundreds, probably thousands of hours of podcasts mixed with my work and like me just loving the medium. And something that I learned from Tom is, and I think this comes also from Jordan Peterson, is we just need to establish the vocabulary before the conversation. So like in your case, manifestation means vision, action, like,
Yeah.
so that is very different from what someone else might think manifestation is.
And I'm glad that I took that point during this conversation to clarify that.
Yeah.
But what I want to go a step further and make it easier for everyone. It's my responsibility as a communicator to make it as easy and as simple to understand and execute on what I say, if you so choose to. Yeah. And I want to even go a step beyond that and make it so that it doesn't even need explaining. And the way that I think that is done is by getting better words, simpler words that are more divinely and easily accepted, so that we can move through the explaining point, so that it can be easily absorbed. Because I'm trying to create content in life that actually goes into your subconscious mind and transforms the reality that you see, so you can move yourself forward. So I have to deeply question the wording, the way that I execute, the way that I articulate it, so that you can fully grasp what I'm saying as easily as possible, so that you can take it. Because in my mind, you shouldn't even listen to a podcast unless you can take 1% of it and implement it in your life today. Because it's pointless just listening to podcasts for entertainment. There's no point. You're meant to listen, and you're meant to learn from a podcast.
Yeah, that's something that I'm going back and forth with, Frankie, to be honest with you, because I listen to a lot of podcasts that are packaged in a way to give you a lesson. And bro, then I listen to some other podcasts that is just two random dudes just talking about nonsense. And in the middle of all of that nonsense, some magical thing happens where they
learn
click.
something, right?
You do. You learn and also share experiences. I think just listening to someone's story, our brain is made in a way that just by listening to that mere story, it triggers something in your brain and it connects points of things that you were missing.
I think you need the story articulated in a way with feeling, so that people can understand the thing that they're meant to implement.
Yeah.
So I think you need the story, then the implementation, then the story, then the implementation.
I'm questioning that more and more and more.
And the beautiful thing about this is there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
It's like whatever helps you get your best self over to your audience is the best thing for you. Whatever allows the most amount of people to understand in the quickest amount of time what you're trying to say, that's going to benefit them and move them forward in their life, that is all I care about. Yeah. And if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be wrong if it takes me further towards that.
Yeah.
I'm not egotistical enough to think I'm right, I know the right way. No. Yeah. I'm learning every day. I'm listening to how we're conversing, and I'm analyzing it. I'm like, okay, I could have said that in 4 words rather than 16 words, and it would have landed a lot better. And it's like, I want to get to that level. And I think when you care about podcasting as much as we obviously do, that's a beautiful thing, because we are learning in public.
Well, guys, thank you so much for checking in for this episode. I hope you love it. And if you did, send it to a friend. And if you can, check out this other interview over here. I'm pretty sure you're going to like it. We'll see you in the next one.